When people can't defeat the argument, they attack the person. Have you ever noticed that some conversations don't actually stay conversations? You present a point, you explain your reasoning, you even keep your tone calm. And suddenly the other person isn't talking about the idea anymore. They're talking about you. Who are you to say that? By the end of this episode, you'll understand one of the most common thinking errors in modern society, the ad hominem fallacy, why people use it, how it derails intelligent discussion, and how to respond without losing your composure or your credibility. And once you understand this, you'll start seeing it everywhere. Ad hominem is Latin for to the person. An ad hominem fallacy happens when someone responds to an argument by attacking the person making it rather than the argument itself. Instead of engaging with evidence, logic, or reasoning, they shift the focus to your character, your background, your status, your lifestyle, your past, and your perceived flaws. And here's the non-negotiable rule. Arguments don't become false because the speaker is imperfect. An idea stands or falls on its own merit, not on the resume, income, age, or personality of the person saying it. So imagine you're advising someone to buy a house, and you say you should prioritise location and affordability over aesthetics, and avoid maxing out your borrowing capacity. Instead of engaging with that reasoning, they respond with, well, what do you know? You live at home with your mum. Notice what didn't happen. They didn't challenge the logic, dispute the financial reasoning, or offer a counter-argument. They simply attacked you, so they wouldn't have to think. Even if you did live at home with your mum, the advice remains either correct or incorrect, independently of that fact. That is textbook ad hominem. People don't use ad hominem because they're confident. They use it because they're uncomfortable. It usually appears when someone feels intellectually threatened, is emotionally invested in being right, lacks sufficient evidence and knowledge, has tied their identity to a belief, is losing but can't admit it. Ad hominem is an ego's escape route. Instead of saying, I can't refute this, they say, well, I can discredit you. From a psychological standpoint, ad hominem is a defense mechanism. When belief forms part of identity, disagreement feels personal. The mind then shifts from truth-seeking to self-protection. Logic becomes secondary, status, dominance, and emotional relief take over. That's why ad hominem thrives in politics, online debates, relationships, money discussions, and career advice. Anywhere identity is on the line, logic is under pressure. So here are some other examples, real world, that explains the reasonable statement that might have been made and then the ad hominem response. So first of all is financial advice. A statement might be, it's usually smarter to invest consistently over time rather than trying to time the market. The ad hominem response might be that, well, you're not even rich. Why should I listen to you about money? The truth of the strategy doesn't depend on the speaker's bank balance. What about relationship advice? You might say healthy relationships require boundaries and honest communication. The ad hominem response might be, well, you're single. What do you know about relationships? Understanding dynamics doesn't require current participation. What about in careers? The statement might be, well, climbing the ladder too fast without competence can backfire. The ad hominem response is, well, you're not a CEO, so your opinion is irrelevant. Position doesn't determine insight. What about age-based stuff? The statement might be that, well, long-term thinking is more important than short-term wins. The response might be, well, you're too young to understand how the world really works. Age is not an argument. What about under past mistakes? This approach didn't work historically and it's likely to fail again. The response might be, well, you've been wrong before. Why should we trust you now? Past error doesn't negate present reasoning. What about emotional dismissal? The statement might be that this policy creates incentives that cause unintended consequences. The response might be, well, you're just emotional and triggered. Emotion doesn't invalidate logic. What about politics? We should analyse the data before forming an opinion. The response might be, well, you're just left-wing or right-wing thinker. Labels replace thinking. What about education? The statement might be, well, formal education isn't the only path to competence. The response might be, well, you didn't even go to university. Credentials don't monopolise truth. What about motive questioning? This business model has ethical concerns. Well, you're only saying that because you're jealous. Motives don't determine validity. And what about social status? Success often involves luck as well as effort. The response might be, well, you're not successful enough to comment on that. Reality doesn't care about hierarchy. So in relationships, issues turn into identity attacks. In workplaces, good ideas die because the wrong person said them. In society, truth becomes tribal and debate becomes performance. When ad hominem dominates, thinking stops. So how do we respond without escalation? Well, never counter with insults. Instead, calmly bring back the focus. That doesn't address the point. Can we focus on the idea rather than me? How does that invalidate the reasoning? Let's separate the argument from the person. This exposes the fallacy without aggression, and most people have nothing left once it's exposed. We live in a time where emotion beats evidence, identity beats ideas, volume beats validity. Understanding logical fallacies isn't about sounding smart, it's about protecting your mind from manipulation. So when someone attacks you instead of your argument, don't take it personally. Take it diagnostically. Because it usually means one thing: they've run out of ideas or reasons. And when reasons run out, ad hominem steps in.